Today on the Business Builders podcast, we're talking about 5 key attributes to cultivate a business development mindset. Ron shares a great timeless principle about mindset from the 1947 version of A Miracle on 34th Street. And I talk about what we can learn about detachment from the Kenny Rogers song, The Gambler. Well, welcome to the Business Builders podcast. We are your hosts. I am Brenton Gowland.
And I'm Ron Tomlin.
And Ron, it seems to be the season for bugs and so forth.
Different type of bugs than what I'd think of with bugs. So you're talking about colds.
Yeah.
Not everything's negative about that. Listen to yourself at the moment. That beautiful husky voice.
Husky voice. The only reason I bring this up, everyone, is because I'm going to try my best not to cough, but I'm just on the back end of a fantastic lurgy. And no, it was not COVID. It's the first time I've been sick in about 3 years since this whole COVID thing started.
Yeah, it's touch wood. I'm still at the uninfectious stage. No colds for about 3 years.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
You start to get it back out in the world and the colds come. But yeah, I've been jabbed for the flu. I've been jabbed for COVID and still got a bug.
Pincushion Brendan, they call you.
And I think half the world's a pincushion at the moment.
That's right.
Now we got monkeypox. Everyone's starting to get vaccinations for.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll try and avoid that one.
Okay. So sicknesses aside, wasn't last episode fantastic with Ian Tennant?
Yes. To have that synergy between what we've been talking about previously and that a practitioner actually giving his perspective on business development and this to be such correlation between that was fantastic. Really enjoyed that.
Agreed. And I like the fact that we spoke to him, everything was about the customer. And of course, Ian deals in high-end deals, but everything was about solving their problem. Nothing was like, I've got to get a sale. It was all about how we're going to solve this problem. And I think that's absolutely so important to hear that when someone's talking, because not once, as I said, did I hear him say, I needed to get a sale.
And that's why I think it's important we talk about our discussion this week.
Yes. So because we've been doing this BD series, if you're listening and you've come in and maybe this is the first episode or maybe you've been listening for a while, we have, again, been doing a series on business development. We've just ended that and we ended that with the interview with Ian. And in the next fortnight, I'm very happy to say that we've got Bill Caskey, who's a sales trainer from the United States, and also runs something called the Advanced Selling Podcast. So please check it out. They've got like 800 episodes, which is all about business development. So obviously a big topic, but Bill will be joining us again to discuss business development and how to develop our skills and what is best practice and so forth. So very useful. But what we thought we'd do between these two exceptional guests is talk to you about developing a business development mindset. What's the right mindset to be able to go out and successfully bring in work for our businesses?
And before we do that, we better talk about our sponsors.
We should. So we have SA Business Builders, and I'm going to try not to cough. SA Business Builders, who are a group of business development, well, not business development, I've got business development on the mind. They're business professionals, so CEOs, different executives, different business professionals. And we also have been really starting to bring in the young guns, which was talked about for a while, and starting to match up business development professionals with young guns to really pass on that knowledge. And something really, we had a session about a week ago, and I had a gentleman that came along who has successfully sold a business and retired, and he specifically asked, can I get involved and mentor some of these young guns? And I'm like, heck yes.
Absolutely. And I think everyone either in some way or another should be involved in mentoring or being mentored because it changes your perspective. It gives you new horizons to consider.
Absolutely. So if you've got something to share, you should really think about getting involved with a group and being able to do that, because the other thing is that helps you grow. If you mentor other people, you really got to think about what it is you're doing. So, even if you're 26 years old and you have something to share with someone who's 21 or older,
reverse mentoring, it's the new thing.
I'm not sure it's new, but it's certainly becoming more accepted. But I just say get on it, pass on your skills. So we've also got
Adaptco,
which is me. Do you want to give me your app? Come on, you can do it.
Helping businesses when they don't have marketing capability within their organization, helping them to get that and make yourself redundant in the process.
That's what I do.
Yeah, that's what Adaptco is all about.
So you can do that. I'm going to get you to do all my promotions from now on.
Fantastic.
You got a marketing background. Anyway, that's our sponsors. So 2 great sponsors. And I know that if you're in other countries, SA Business Builders won't be able to necessarily help you, but we hope to inspire you with some of this, that you do get involved with networking groups in your area and you do start to mentor others if you've got that capability. And Adaptco, heck, I can help anyone anywhere around the world. So hit me up. Anyway, that's our sponsors. So let's get on to our topic. So let's start with, Ron, if you're going to have the right mindset for business development, I think we got to start by looking at business development and look what maybe the wrong mindset is or what the problems are with business development and sales.
Problem with sales, yeah. And I think it starts with understanding that the customer doesn't want to be sold to. As you think about yourself, and this is the good way of doing it, nobody wants to feel like they've been sold to. They want a solution to their problem. So customers want help, but they want a solution. They want a way out of their problem. They don't want a sale. And unfortunately, or to be sold to. And unfortunately, a lot of salespeople go into the whole thing about, I've got to get a sale.
Don't you love those messages on LinkedIn that you get from someone, you go, should I accept this person? And you accept them, and then 5 minutes later you get a generic sales message about, I want to sell you this. And you're just like, do I press delete? Do I tell them to run away?
No, it's a huge problem, in my opinion. And it comes down to mindset. The customer has a different mindset about what the interaction is about to the salesperson. Unless there's a meeting of those minds, it's always going to end in disaster.
It comes down to that company who is driving that action to happen, in that they are pushing their salespeople to do those kind of things. So obviously it must work, but are they the type of clients that we're looking for, or is that the kind of business we're in? I think we got to ask that question as well.
I think the other thing too is you say it must work, but does it work? In the short term?
Not with me, it doesn't.
Yeah, in the short term, maybe, but that's not the way to get long-term loyalty from customers. It's not the way to get customers to believe you have their best interests at heart. So I think it's a very short-term transactional type of thinking. And quite frankly, it's not going to work in a more sophisticated marketplace where people are looking for, I want to trust the people I work or interact with, I trust the people I use, and I want them to have reciprocity. I'm going to give them my money. I want them to provide me with a solution, and it's not just about a transaction.
So the problem with sales, we could probably sum up there, is that certain people have created a stigma in the market in the way that they conduct themselves. And it's those call centers. It's people who meet you at a business networking event, and the first thing they want to do is tell you all about themselves, get your business card, etc. And you just think to yourself, man, I don't want to talk to you. You're just here to sell to me. That whole thing of sales having a stigma is part of the problem.
Yeah. Well, it always, I've always liked this particular analogy that the definition of malpractice in medicine is prescription before diagnosis. Well, isn't that what we're talking about with pushy salespeople? I've got the solution for you. Now what's the problem? Or not even asking what the problem is.
So that begs the question, why are these salespeople pushy, right? And this, again, comes back to the problem with sales. So is it the fact that they get commissions so that unless they sell something, they're not getting a wage? Is it pressure from above? Is it that, they have to get a sale or they might not be employed in, a few months? There's a whole heap of background things that go on that cause those behaviors, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other side of the coin is because that has been the case, I think we've all developed filters. We've all developed defense mechanisms. I know the CEOs that I work with are experts at smelling desperation and manipulation. They're experts at feeling, understanding that if this guy doesn't, or this girl doesn't first find out more about me and my needs and my wants, they're just trying to push something on me. And I have great ways of fending them off or preventing them from making the sale.
I saw this situation at SA Business Builders once. We had a fairly high profile CEO came along who I met at an event, and he said he just wanted to be able to hang out with people and have a beer and talk normally and play pool. Anyway, comes to this SA Business Builders event we had at a pub. Someone very high profile from Adelaide found out about this and sent 2 of his guys along specifically to sell to that guy. And I saw them come in and they were on him like a rash and were just selling the whole time. And I was watching this transpire and thinking, this guy's just being harassed by these people. So we ended up
rescuing him
and getting those other 2 gents into a conversation and almost barricading this guy in a corner with the right people. And at the end of the night, he said, I really want to thank you. This has been one of the best nights I've ever had in a long time. And he said that he saw exactly what went on and he knew what we had done. Mm. And he said he just appreciated it massively. And we had a long-term relationship with this guy after that. We didn't sell to him at all, but those conversations just massively important because you build a great rapport with people in the right way.
And people want to buy from people who they trust, quite frankly. And they don't want, what's interesting is that increasingly I find that people, there should be nothing wrong with sales, but there is a stigma about it. And people are asking to be called business development people. Why? Because they don't want to be called salespeople.
Yeah. And I think part of that does come down to the businesses that drive these people because they put certain measures in place. And yes, we must get sales for the business to run. But when you put the wrong kind of pressure, you create the wrong kind of mindset in your actual salespeople and you almost set them up for, in a sense, failure. But again, it depends on the business because if it's very, very high turnover, then there's no reason to create a relationship. But let's be frank, I know that a lot of our listeners here are in businesses where they need to build long-term relationships with clients. And what you need to do is create an environment where the right mindset can be created. But let's say you can't do that. Let's say you're a business development person and you want to get results. Let's go from the stigma. So the problem with sales is, yes, there's a stigma that there can be all sorts of factors driving their behavior, that people can smell desperation, like you were talking about with your CEOs, that people try to manipulate you to get a sale. How do you love this one? Well, I'm going to put a time limited offer on that. Whenever I hear that, I go, I'm just going to say goodbye.
Yeah. Because it's a form of manipulation. Let's
Correct.
Be fair.
So what is the right mindset, Ron? So if we are a business development person or even if we're a CEO in a company, to you CEOs, we're talking about creating an environment where the right mindset is created. But let's talk about what we want, the mindset in the person. When I go out to sell my product or create opportunities, what mindset should I have?
Well, let's start with the whole matching process.
Right.
My organization wants to help another organization or another person. So I need to know what help they need, what their needs are. The only way you're going to find that out is by being curious, by being genuinely interested in that organization, that person. But it's not curiosity for the sake of curiosity. It's purposeful curiosity.
I like that. That's really good.
So it's about being genuinely interested, which requires you to talk to the people that you think you might be able to help, finding out what's going on, finding out what their needs are, and finding out what the opportunities for collaboration are.
Yeah, great.
With that organization. And that requires a willingness to learn, not only about what that organization is about and how we could help, but sometimes we get it wrong. How can we learn from the mistakes we've made in the past?
Yeah.
How can we learn from the way the customer doesn't want it done?
Yep.
So that purposeful curiosity is the first element, I think, of the right BD mindset.
Yeah, that's great. And look, I might just add that if you are a CEO or executive listening to this, this also speaks about the qualities you should be looking in people that you employ to do business development. Because your business development people, if they're pushy, they don't just create a bad reputation for themselves, they create a bad reputation for your company.
Oh, absolutely. The people who are out there are representing your brand, representing 100%. Your company, and they are forming your reputation, whether you like it or not.
And look, I'll be honest, I've had people about me in the past say, I wouldn't do work with Brenton because he tries to sell too hard. Now, that's from when I was a bit younger and learning the ropes and all that kind of jazz. And I think I've matured.
And you've learned that it doesn't work that well.
Yes, I still have my moments. Everyone does. We have to, as you were saying, be willing to learn. That's part of the curiosity. So having a curiosity about yourself and how you can develop, and that might be another part of the mindset, is having an ability to be self-aware and to actually develop yourself over time.
I think that's critical.
Self-awareness is massive about having the right mindset. And that comes down to, and that wasn't even one of the intended points I was going to say, but that comes down to being in a room and being self-aware of yourself and understanding where other people are at. So that's a massive thing to have the right mindset, actually being self-aware. But again, as we go through these things, these are the things I'd be looking for in a new employee. But one thing I was going to say that I've learnt over time is incredibly important.
So the second thing now.
This is the second thing, even though I threw in one part A or B or whatever you'd like to call it, is detachment.
Oh, no, wait a second. Detachment.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like you don't want to be involved with your customers.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, tell me
It's
more.
about, yes, having the curiosity, but let's say there is a huge amount of pressure coming from the business. Wow, our sales are down. We got to bring it up. Guys, sales team, you've got to get out there. Mr. BD person, we need to get sales. And if you carry that pressure into a meeting with someone and that's ticking through you, you are going to give a very bad impression. Remember how you said CEOs can smell desperation?
Absolutely.
So you have to be able to, and it took me years to really start to get this and actually start to be able to do it. But I would literally turn my mind off to all that pressure in the background. And it comes down to, yes, curiosity. I would just wrap myself in being interested in that business. And I think you need to be able to not bring, it's like saying, if you come to work, you get to choose your attitude, right? I don't bring all my problems to work. Well, I'm not going to bring all my problems and pressures to having a meeting with a potential client, because if you do, you will not give the right impression and you will make people think you're only interested in a sale, and that's going to turn people away.
Oh, of course, because people, their interaction, they can sense that desperation, sense that sense of, I'm not really interested in what you're talking about. I'm only interested in getting to the bit where I get to tell you about me.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
So that detachment is a literally turning off everything else other than that client who's right in front of you and being able to be. But then it goes a little bit further. Let's say you've only got 2-3 deals in the pipeline, and those deals then become really, really important to you to the point of sometimes desperation. Because you know how someone can just string something on for such a long time.
An attachment to the result.
Correct. And you get emotionally involved. So if they're not responding, it actually changes your mood with everyone else. Oh my gosh, they're not responding to my calls. They're this, they're that. But if you can remain detached and not let that affect you, you go on about your other work. Well, they're not responding. That's where they're at. So we can do everything we can do, but that's all we can do. And then when they do eventually get in contact with you, maybe there's been all sorts of stuff going on, or maybe they aren't interested. But it enables you to be much more pragmatic and actually to hear what they say if you're not so wrapped up in that result. Because otherwise you'll keep asking questions like, when are we going to close this deal? When are we going to do this? Other than responding to what they're really interested in.
And when it's not right, you're talking about emotion, not being attached to it, accepting that it may be, I'm talking to somebody who we can't help.
Yep. And listen, it's really interesting. If we've got Bill Caskey on the show next week, like I've listened to the Advanced Selling podcast for years, and then I've been in a coaching group with Bill, and they talk episode on episode on episode about detachment. So it's a really big topic, and we might ask Bill a little bit about detachment next week or in the next fortnight.
I'd love to hear his perspective on that.
Yeah, great. So that's the next one. So we've got purposeful curiosity, we've thrown in self-awareness, and we've put in detachment for the right mindset. What else is there?
I think having the perspective or the attitude that I want to actually help. Now, that leads to genuine curiosity because or purposeful curiosity, because to be able to help, you need to find out what the problem is. But coming in with, I don't want to sell, I want to help this organization, and accepting that sometimes you can't help them.
Yes.
What you're providing or the resource or the service that you're suggesting isn't going to work for this organization. And then detachment allows you to be resilient and say, okay, I can walk away from that because I don't think we can actually help them.
But here's a little caveat on that, right? And I know this comes from you and I having a conversation earlier, but if your business can't help them, maybe you still can.
Oh, yeah.
Because givers get. So I know you had, and I'm being very specific here, you had a couple of examples we talked about when we had our coffee before we started this podcast. What were your examples?
It's a little bit of a naff example, but the best one that I can think of is in the old Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah.
Edmund Quinn was playing Santa Claus.
Yeah, great.
And he was almost fired because in working for Macy's, he was suggesting to people who were looking to get particular products that Gimbals, their major competitor, had a better range or better price or whatever. So he was directing people to not buy it at Macy's, buy it at Gimbals because it would help them.
Yes.
He almost got fired for that. And a famous scene where the floor manager is about to go and sack him, and a customer comes up and said, I will always shop at Macy's from now on because your Santa Claus gave me some great information about Gimbals. I am loyal to this organization from now on.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, is building trust.
That happened to me in another business I was in. We had a client who wanted us to do a piece of research work, and we were an advertising agency, and we had this juxtaposition of, well, we could do that, outsource it, take some cream on top and whatever. But we ultimately decided, no, we're going to send them to the right people. And this client actually got mad at us because they wanted us to do the work. And we said, look, you're going to get a much cheaper option if you go here. These guys are the experts. We'd be kidding you if we said we're the experts in research, because we use their research, but we don't go out and do the research. We could do an okay kind of workaround job, but these guys are going to give you exactly what they want. And so we pushed them down that road and they used them. But then they ended up bringing us all their branding and their web and all sorts of stuff. There wasn't even a question of using anyone else. And I honestly believe it's because we did the right thing and we helped them find the right people. And I can think of lots of examples like that where you might not be in a position where you can help that particular client, but you can send them somewhere where they can help them.
And so they come back to you next time to find out where they should go. And sometimes that will be you.
Yeah.
I mean, that quite frankly is the basis of the whole challenger sales concept.
Yes.
Where you are not simply accepting everything that comes your way.
Yes.
You're challenging your customer to think about things.
Yes.
And to my way of thinking, that builds genuine relationship.
Exactly. And that then has dividends that pays for years. And that kind of speaks into the next point, which is knowing when to let go. Because there's that old Kenny Rogers song about the gambler. And what's those words? Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run.
Yes. God, I'll tell you what, that's going back a few years.
Well, actually, to be honest, there's a pub in Adelaide that's called Shotgun Willie's, which is based on Willie Nelson, and they play all that music now. And so you got 20-year-olds singing that song, The Gambler.
My son was doing that on Saturday night last.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. This is a digression, but it's actually interesting to see a few bars that are really playing that old school music and that country music. And now you got all these young people starting to sing it. I'm like, how do you know that?
Eventually, Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin will be back. I've got every confidence.
Everything does loops. I think they're already still here. Every karaoke bar around the world plays them more than anything else.
Oh, thank God for that.
Boy, we're getting off topic.
Yeah.
So knowing when to let go is so vitally important, one, for having the right mindset, because if you flog a dead horse, as per that saying, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to burn a lot of time and you're potentially going to destroy relationships.
Destroy trust. If you're trying to fit a round peg in a square hole just to make a sale.
But to your point earlier, how good would it be to be able to recognize as early as possible, I don't think we can help you, but I think if you talk to this person, this person, and this person, you're going to have a really fair chance of finding what you're looking for. That client all of a sudden loves you. The person you send them to says, thank you very much for the referral. I'll give you another one later. But it's this principle that I heard a long while ago, which I love. And it's this simple: give, ask, right? So you can give, you get money in the goodwill bank, and then enables you to be able to ask for things from people when you need them. Hey, I need an introduction to X because I really believe we can help them. In the back of your head, you know that you've sent this person a couple of referrals or you've given them the right information. You build a relationship where you've got now that level of trust where you can ask for things.
And that goes into the networking side of things as well. Never expect that someone's going to, when you're contacting them, is just going to, because they've met you, that they're going to want to do business with you.
Yeah.
But if you can give something useful to them, you can point them in a direction that might not have anything to do with you making a sale, then you've got some goodwill in the bank.
100%.
Yeah.
So that then brings us to maybe the most important point of all, Ron, which is
persistence.
Tell us about that.
Well, you're going to get knockbacks.
Yeah.
For a couple of reasons. One, if you're in that position of sales or business development, some people just don't want to deal with you.
Yeah.
I think the other thing too is if you're asking a lot of people or you're talking to a lot of people, some of them will be able to use your service at this point in time. Some won't, they never will, or you haven't got them at the right time where they need your service.
Yes.
Don't take it personally. That's the detachment, but be willing to continue looking for the right people. Be willing to look for people who need the solution that you provide. And that means, turning over a lot of rocks, asking a lot of questions, talking to a lot of people. And that requires persistence. And it helps to have that detachment. It's not a personal thing. They're not saying no because they don't like me, which I've seen salespeople feel, well, I can't keep doing this because people don't like me. No, it's just that you haven't provided the right solution for them. And being willing to learn means that you are willing to find out what people are looking for, the type of person or type of organization that has a need for your products or services. You can start being more focused about who you talk to. But at the end of the day, you've got to be persistent.
Yeah, and persistence will do a few things. Like you're saying, you need to be able to talk to a lot of people to get results. Business development is a numbers game, but persistence will help you really reinforce this mindset and your ability, because the more you're detached, the more you know when to let go, the more you expand your curiosity, you're going to develop, and this comes down to networking in a sense, both a reputation and a network around you that are going to help you because you're doing all the right things. You're not coming in as the arrogant salesperson. Unfortunately, I hate saying this, but there's plenty of people I know that present like that. And I know that's because they're trying to get a sale. Because I know one guy, I'm not going to say obviously anything about who he is, but really presents in an arrogant way when he comes across with sales. But you get to know him. He's a lovely person, but it's because he's being driven by I've got to get things done by the right amount of time, So the kind of person who will block anyone out and just go for one person and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, don't like it. But having the right mindset, being persistent and just driving on with this, you develop a real ability around you to reduce the amount of time it takes to find a qualified lead.
So just summarizing.
Yes.
Purposeful curiosity.
Yep.
Detachment.
Yes.
Self-awareness,
yes,
which I think is a great skill. Wanting to actually help the customer,
yep,
knowing when to let go, and persistence. Now, there are 5 best attributes of a business development mindset, but that's only our opinion.
Correct.
I'd love to hear if we've missed something out, if people disagree with any of those points.
Yeah.
Or whether they've got new ideas.
One thing I'm definitely sure of, we've missed some things out.
I'm sure we have.
This is a general overview. But to your point, we've had a couple of people call lately and message us, and that started to grow. And we really like that involvement. But we would love to hear from you, like Ron's saying, what your thoughts are, if there's any tricks you've learned that you think this has really helped me with my thinking. Because any kind of professional skill, we've talked about business strategy, we've talked about, and business strategy is an interesting one because everything you do when you're trying to develop a strategy is creating a framework to think properly, to create the right mindset to develop that strategy. And what we're talking about here is developing the right mindset to put into practice all the things we've just talked about in driving business development. So it's so important to get your mind right to be able to get results. And I'm sure there's more to learn.
And I'm sure we're going to hear some of that from our next guest in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Bill Caskey, I've been listening to their podcast for years and had a great deal of involvement with the coaching that they run. So we have people from all around the world coming together and coaching each other. So that's around sales training. So that's fantastic. So we look forward to that.
And on that note, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. We hope you have a great fortnight. And until next time, see you later.